Hey, what's up? Pizza Living Nerd here. Today I will be doing a review on the VolksPC model S905X. The VolksPC is a $99 Debian and Android box, which you can use for streaming, gaming, and even as a PC if you're brave enough to try that. Keep in mind that VolksPC did send this unit in to me for review, however, this will not affect the review. I'm still going to give an honest review on it. Anyways, let's get right into the review. Let's start with the hardware. The VolksPC itself has very good build quality, however I do wish it had rubber nubs on the bottom so that it wouldn't move so easily. For example, my Raspberry Pi has these nubs on the bottom so it has less friction when you move it around, but the VolksPC does not. The HDMI cord is pretty short, so I would have an extra one if you are planning on placing it far away from your TV. It does come with a remote, which isn't the best, but it also isn't the worst. It's usable. Although I do wish you could map these four buttons, the media, music, web, and app buttons at the top. I haven't found a way to change those. I did notice that whenever I unplugged the unit, the time would reset to December 31st, 2014. However, if you are connected to the internet and have the time set to set itself automatically based on internet, then whenever you go into Android, the time gets fixed. The specs that you get with the VolksPC are an Amlogic S905X quad-core ARM Cortex-A53 clocked at 1.5 GHz, a pentacore ARM Mali 450 GPU, 2 gigs of DDR3 RAM, 16 gigs of flash storage, 100 megabits Ethernet, and Bluetooth 4.0. The system also has an HDMI port, 2 USB ports, a microSD slot, a DC port, and a power cord. I did have one issue where my microSD card got stuck inside of the slot and I had to get it out with tweezers, so be careful when inserting microSD cards. Now let's talk about the software. When you boot up the VolksPC, out of the box it boots into Debian 10. However, it isn't running Debian as its main OS. It is actually running Debian through an Android app. Because of this, there are some graphical bugs here and there, but it actually surprisingly runs very stable. Most Debian apps run very well. Software like LibreOffice, Python 3 Idle, and GIMP run very well. However, web browsing is very slow to do, and I'd recommend doing web browsing inside of Android instead of in Debian. This is very easy to do because there's actually a shortcut to web browse in Android from Debian, so you just click an icon and it takes you to Android's web browser. Another thing I like is how easy it is to switch to and from Android and Debian. All you have to do is hit the Windows key or Super and Alt. The build of Android is Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow. While this version of Android is getting close to 4 years old, it is still very usable in 2019. It uses the Media Box launcher, which works pretty well functionally, but I don't really like the look of it. Luckily, it is very easy to replace the launcher with something like ATV Launcher. There isn't really any bloatware on the VolksPC except for one game called Fishing Joy. I'm not sure why this is pre-installed because you need a mouse to play it, and playing it with the included TV remote is very hard because you have to play it in mouse mode, so I'm not sure why it's pre-installed. The File Manager and Music Player are both from very old versions of Android, so they look pretty old, but they do still work functionally. There is also an app called VolksPC Installer, which you can use to remove and reinstall Debian, increase the size of the Debian partition, as well as configure which OS to boot by default. This application is very useful and is probably one of the best features of the VolksPC. Other than the launcher and Fishing Joy, this is a very good build of Android and is a great box for streaming things like Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube. Let's do some gaming tests. Now for some reason, some games such as PUBG Mobile aren't listed in the Play Store, so I was limited on what I could test out, but I still tested out some games. Note that the performance might be a little bit different from what I described because I recorded the frame rates and then I recorded the footage after. The beta version of Minecraft runs at about 15 to 30 frames on the lowest graphics with the render distance set to 9. In a normal survival world, I get around 15 to 30 FPS above ground. However, underground, sometimes I can actually get close to 60 FPS. Super Tux Kart runs pretty well when the graphics are set to graphics level 4, which is pretty good because there's 6 graphic levels. I always get around 30 to 40 FPS in graphics level 4. It's always between those. The lowest frame rate I got was 28 and the highest being 42. This is with the graphics level set to 4, so if you bump it down to 1 or 2, you could probably get way better frame rate, maybe even 60 FPS, although I did not test that. I tried NES and SNES emulation with the Retro 8 and Super Retro 16 emulators. Every game I tried ran flawlessly at what felt like 60 FPS, although I didn't have an FPS counter going. The only issue I had was the Super HQ3X shader made the games lag out. However, every other shader I tried worked great. One thing I was interested in is if this can run N64 games, so I booted up Mario 64 in the Mupen 64 Plus FZ emulator, and surprisingly it ran perfectly at a consistent 30 FPS, at native resolution. I also tried PlayStation 1 emulation using Crash Bandicoot on the EPSXE emulator, and it ran flawlessly at 60 FPS on the default settings. Overall, this is a very good system for emulation and retro gaming. However, for more complex games such as Minecraft, it doesn't work as well. I was going to try and make a video on if it's possible to use this as a main PC, but I decided I'll just include this part as a review. It is possible to use this as a main PC if you can do most of the things you'd need to do on an Android phone, because you are running Android and you are limited to it. Debian is there for running some Linux apps, but since it's ARM-based, you can only run ARM-based applications. Plus, it might be awkward using a keyboard and mouse on mobile apps, so because of that I must say that you're going to have to be brave to use it as your main PC. Overall, the VolksPC is a great investment for tinkerers. This is a tinkerer's Android box. You can use Debian to run a server or use something like GIMP or LibreOffice or even do some Python coding on it. But it also has Android, so this is also a great Android box. Sure, there are some bugs here and there with Debian, but if you can get past the bugs, this is a great Debian box and Android box. If you guys are interested in buying this, this is on sale at the time of this video, so you can get it $20 cheaper than normal. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.